Okay, I've calmed down now, so let's try this again. I'll probably rage and rip the book in half this time instead of fluttering it across the room, but we'll see. Noah scooted to the edge of his chair. Tell me what? I put one hand over the receiver and said, he says you should leave now. What? That can't be. I offered him the phone. If you don't believe me, talk to him yourself. Because this guy would be stupid enough. I know he's crazy, and I know that this stupid story, what it's trying to say about religious people, so I'm just going to shut up and go with it, and then burn this book later. He hesitated briefly, muttering something under his breath. Then, with the Colt still leveled at me, he leaned across the desk with his free hand to take the phone. But I slammed the receiver onto the desk, much like he'd done earlier with his pipe. The move so startled him that he jerked his hand away, knocking the pipe onto the floor. Instinctively, he bent over to pick it up. Because when the guy is pointing a gun at me, what I want to do is scare him half to death. Not like the gun could accidentally go off and shoot the shit out of me. Character is height of intelligence. The height of intelligence, my friends. The height of intelligence. Momentarily out of his line of sight, I jumped up and grabbed the receiver. Then, with both hands wrapped around it like a baseball bat, I swung at the Colt. With all the strength I could muster. Again. You don't want to do that. You want to run the fuck away. 'Cause he will accidentally shoot you if you jar it. Unfortunately, the pistol did not conveniently fly out of his hand. Why did you think that it would? It must have hurt, though, because he yelped like a wounded pup before bolting out of his chair and sprinting around the desk to confront me. Yeah, that kind of happens when you don't run and get the hell out of there. Heathen bitch! That's when I introduced myself. Because you normally would do that to somebody pointing a gun at you and screaming in your face. In your face, calling you names. Yes, also in your face, like this fucking book does. When all else fails, try manners. He wasn't impressed. Sinner slut! I'm not either. He yelled. Up to this point, his voice had been merely creepy. A high, raspy twang that sounded like a violin with a bad cold. Because violins get sick. But the yelling had deepened the tone somehow, dripping venom with every syllable, because he already didn't hate your guts. If I'd been rattled by the sight of the 45, it was the hatred now spewing out of the guy's mouth that set my heart racing, because I'm a dumbass and apparently think nothing can hurt me. I retreated a step and tried to keep my cool, figuring help would come charging through the office door at any minute. He was in my face, his breath as foul as a clogged-up sewer, because even crazy people don't keep their hygiene up. Because crazy people don't keep up their hygiene. That's what, a crazy person that's impeccable? Wow, that's unheard of. It would never happen. So unbelievable. The Colt was just inches from my stomach. Listen, I said evenly, we've obviously gotten off to a bad start here. Perhaps if we both sat down again and, because you attacked him, he's got a gun, he's clearly trying to kill you, and has not got a full set of marbles. You don't talk to crazy people. You do what they tell you, and then you try to get the fuck away. A noise at the door. Finally! I held my breath and waited for the rescue. Tap, tap. Tap, tap. The knock was very soft, very polite. The police were knocking? Well, then it's not the fucking cops, now is it? Whatever happened to kicking down the door and storming the joint? Oh, I don't know, maybe because there's a psycho in your office that's gonna fucking kill you if they try to rush in there without faking like you? Noah gripped my arm and twisted me around so that I was in front of him. Because he's actually more intelligent than our main character. The pistol jammed into my lower back. Shouldn't it be like towards her head, but whatever. We'll answer it together, he growled, shoving me forward. As we lurched across the room, "Why don't you just kill her? In this book now. Just kill her." We lurched across the room, the door swung open, I caught a glimpse of my rescue team. And the certain knowledge that I was doomed. So it is the cops. The stormtroopers I'd been hoping for had come in the persona of one Taldale Wilmington, a.k.a. the Weasel. Oh, so it's just your boss, yeah. A tall, gangly Ichabod Crane type, Wilmington's main problem was that he suffered from delusions of adequacy. The L in the name stood for Lartstead, which meant he had connections. As the nephew of the management, he had As the nephew of the marina's owner, Old Man Lartstead, Taldale Wilmington didn't have a real job, unless you considered hanging out at the marina and messing with everyone's head a proper job description. As usual, he strode into the room with a self-important air that only the truly incompetent can pull off, like yourself. We all froze where we were, staring at one another. This lasted for a couple of unnerving moments until Noah took charge of the situation. Squeezing my arm roughly with one hand, he brandished the pistol at the Weasel with the other. "Shut the friggin' door." "I'm not saying that." Wilmington responded predictably. He fainted. The trouble with someone taking a dive is they tend to fall where they shouldn't oughta. Write normally, Miss Wilcox. Write like you're competent. Because I am going to assume, in a very kind manner, despite my own opinions, that you are a competent writer, and that you can write competently. You just don't want to. You just enjoy pissing me off, I think. In this case, on me. I tumbled backward like a wobbly, billowing pin and fell spread eagle on a toppled Noah. How is this possible? He has a gun. Oh, right, he aimed it at... Yeah, okay, never mind. This time the pistol flew out of his hand for some reason, because it wouldn't accidentally go off, and landed just beyond reach of our tangled heap. I wouldn't keep pressing the matter about the gun going off, with the exception of every time you do something like what she's done within, 2 pages of this story, there's a chance that the gun is going to go off. It's a very good chance. It's possible you could do these 3 things and the gun not go off. There's also a chance that it will every single time. You don't want to test fate. That's a bad idea. This time the pistol flew out of his hand and landed just beyond reach of our tangled heap. Wilmington was out for the count, but Noah and I squirmed around on the floor like a couple of lusty lovers, because I want to imagine this crazy guy having sex with some woman I hate. Trying to pry ourselves from the Weasel's dead weight wasn't easy, but I had the advantage. Of course you do. Of course you do. With just the one body on top of me, I was able to extricate an arm and a leg, which I knew would be enough to free myself. I'm sure you did. I'd had my share of wrestling matches growing up, because that means the same thing as actually fighting for your life. As the youngest and puniest of 6 kids, which I'm sure matters a lot, I always wound up on the bottom of the pile, and I quickly discovered what it took to survive. Because your siblings were trying to kill you! I hate these books! I hate them! I hate them! I hate them! With my newly liberated limbs, I got enough leverage to start rocking Wilmington. I rock and rolled. 'Cause you're clever, author. Rolled and rocked. 'Cause you're doubly clever. Until I tipped his bony carcass onto the floor. Noah was wriggling and flailing the whole time, But I didn't let him pull the same trick on me, because this was a trick. Once I was clear of the weasel, I flipped onto my feet like a pancake turning on a hot grill. How dare you foul something I love to eat, you asshole. The ease with which I'd carry off the stunt made me grin. Because now is the time to consider this, and be happy. Not the time! I hate you! I hate you as much as I hate Jenna! I grinned even wider when I saw what was lying right next to my feet. Because I would be smiling during this. This is a normal reaction. You're a psychopath. I've decided this. Noah spotted the pistol at the same time. He quickly rolled over and grabbed for it, but by then I'd already scooped it up and had it pointed at his head. Freeze! Because that's the first thing you would say. I would probably say, get out of here, or I'll fucking shoot you, you asshole! I yelled, amazed at the gutsy way I sounded. You're an idiot. 100%. He froze. Because I stopped him with my awesome. Though I'm not really all that awesome. Despite having gained the upper hand, I wasn't feeling all that confident. Guns, whether in my hand or someone else's, make me nervous. Which is why you were grinning and easily telling him to freeze. What nervous are you being right now? Also, anybody pointing a gun at my face or I'm having to defend myself, yeah, I'm gonna be fucking nervous because somebody might actually fucking die. Made of so much smarts. Shaky nervous. No shit. So shaky that Noah dropped to his knees and started praying. I don't think your shaking is why he hit his knees to start praying. It was probably a good idea. For somebody who's not religious like you? Given my agitated state, I wasn't sure what I'd do. Though you're clearly telling me this, so obviously you are in a sane state of mind right now. But I was still holding him at bay. Not really. When the cavalry finally arrived. They came first, 'cause they were hoping that guy would kill me, and they were jacking off to thoughts of my death. First on the scene was Brett Forster, the marina's harbor master, followed shortly by two of Seattle PD's finest, and a smattering of weekend marina personnel who'd stumbled onto the scene as they were headed to work. The arrest itself was straightforward and over quickly, but my role in the affair took a while. Because you aimed the gun at the police officers because you wanted to show how badass you were? Why would it take a while? They arrested the dude and took him off. Now they're just gonna get your statement, probably take the gun from your hands, and then give you the day off. Well, then again, your boss is kind of an asshole, so yeah. I had to endure an excessive round of questioning by the police, 'cause they wouldn't give you a few moments to collect yourself. The part about God's intervention by phone had them confused, then amused, because they thought my joke was fucking hilarious. Nobody else did. Because I was the only one who thought my joke was fucking hilarious. No one else did, and they were laughing at my stupidity. I have to admit I hammed it up a bit, because I'm a dick, and that's what you want to do when giving a statement to the police. Especially when I described the weasel's aborted rescue attempt, which really wasn't a rescue attempt. He just kind of showed up. Relating the tale helped to calm my frazzled nerves. Also, did they just leave that guy on the floor? Like they didn't try to wake him up or anything? Or, fuck this guy on the floor. We're just arrested the dude who came in here with a gun, and we're going to talk to the main character and then see you later. Kick him once for us. Yeah, bye. Relating the tale helped to calm my frazzled nerves because I was so fucking scared. You clearly saw how scared I was throughout this entire part. And the cops seemed to enjoy the story so much that I couldn't resist a few embellishments because, again, that's what you want to tell the police officers when you're giving a statement. You want to make shit up so that when it goes to court and you need to testify, and then you get this guy off with 0 time spent in jail so he can come back and hurt you or somebody else. Also, what is with the cops not doing their jobs in these books? Why are they like this is a comedy act that they're going to see? Even when I was asked to repeat the whole episode about a zillion times, must have been a slow crime day. It's a slow writing day and you couldn't think of anything else that made sense to go into your fucking story. The weasel recovered from his fainting spell after the officers arrived. Well, I would hope so. As soon as he realized that he was no longer in danger, he tried to take credit for the rescue, which anybody in their right state of mind would know wouldn't actually be a thing. The only person who seemed interested in what he had to say was a stinger for the local newspaper. She was a sweet young thing who'd hurried over to the marina. How would you know this? As soon as she heard that a hostage situation was in progress. Did you ask her? Did she give you the full details? I'm sure the press would really tell you about their day, since they'd be more interested in your day. Since nobody would talk to her or to the weasel, they naturally gravitated toward one another. Last I saw of them, they were heading out the door arm in arm. Because that's what you would do when you work for the newspaper. You would go out on a dinner date. I just finished signing an official statement that I embellished and, told a lot of horse crap in order to make myself look better, because that's what you do, right? When the phone rang, it was my sister Kate again. The police had intercepted 3 other calls from her, but I answered this one myself. Finally! I can't believe I actually got through to you. How are you doing? I don't know why she suddenly sounds like a really crappy Valley girl, but she's going to now. Because I need proper entertainment, otherwise I might start breaking things. Just fine, I said, nodding to the officers as they let themselves out the door. All the excitement's over. It's not like they're going to tell me it's okay to answer my phone now. Just fine, I said, nodding to the officers as they let themselves out the door. All the excitement's over. I'm just going to stay here and continue working, I guess. I wasn't exactly fine. Well, no shit. But I didn't want to alarm her. Again, no shit. She's probably already alarmed. Since the police hadn't given Kate much information, why would they other than, we're here, we saved your sister, she's fine at the moment, she'll talk to you later after we talk to her. That's about the gist of it. I gave her a quick rundown of the morning's events. As before, talking about what happened seemed to help settle my nerves. I would be so tired of talking about this. What nerves would I have left except being annoyed? Wait a minute, I'm already annoyed. So who was the guy? A deranged boater? To Kate, all boaters were a little nuts. 'Cause that makes sense for people to think about others who like to go and fish or whatever on a boat. How else would you explain someone who'd shell out thousands of dollars and then some on a pointy thing that floats? What? When you could get a mighty nice sparkler on your finger at a fraction of the cost. It's called a ring, asshole. It's called a ring. Use normal words. What she didn't seem to understand was that buying a boat, any boat, is about as rational as falling in love. Because love is rational, as we just saw. The bigger and fancier the toy, the better the affair. Meet my husband. He's a boat. I dumped him for my real husband because, well, it's a love affair. No, he wasn't a boater or a sailboater either, although that's what he initially claimed he was interested in. Turns out he was some paranoid yahoo from the Blue Water Warriors. You couldn't have thought of a better name for an organization. You really could not have. The Blue Water what? It's an extremist branch of a local environmental group opposed to just about everything. But this fruitcake, because I couldn't use another word to describe this guy, had mixed environmental fervor with a somewhat warped religious viewpoint. He had a real problem with marinas. Why was that? The guy was delusional. He sprouted all kinds of drivel before they hauled him out of here. But it basically boiled down to the belief that marinas are the devil's playground. I chuckled, because that's something I would laugh at after somebody came in there threatening my life with a gun. And then I'm going to make fun of him. Because that's what you do with people who are clearly sick and need help. You make fun of them. Fuck you. Get this. He thought I was the devil's whore because I worked here. He thought he'd been personally chosen by God to clean up the situation at Lawrence. What situation? Water pollution. I don't care if I'm switching their voices. I don't care. He was convinced the marina was desecrating the sacred waters of pungent sound. You're kidding. So what's the weirdo intend to do? Kill you in the name of God and clean water? Apparently. But thanks to your timely phone call and a little luck on my part, he never got the chance. By the way, why did you call so early in the morning? Because I'm an asshole. And maybe your sister wanted to say hi or something. I could hear her tapping her long French-wrapped acrylics on the receiver. Why? Why would she do that? That would be fucking annoying, and I would say stop that. To invite you to lunch. Come on, Kate. Since when do you get up at 6 a.m. to make a luncheon date? Fuck you! Fuck you! Your sibling has asked you out to eat, and you're gonna say that to her? Fuck you. Since, well, it's too complicated to get into on the phone. You know, having just survived being, threatened and almost killed. Meet me for lunch at the why do I keep saying specific instead of Pacific? At the Pacific Boiler, and I'll tell you all about it. It's not like I'm going to be especially kind to you right now and take you out to, somewhere really good to eat, considering all the shit that just happened to you. Oh yeah, you're still going to work for some reason? Sure, that makes sense. The Broiler, I groaned. The Marina's fancy restaurant wasn't my favorite dining spot, for some reason. Because I don't like to eat fancy food, I'm too good for it. Besides having a ridiculously overpriced menu, they expected you to dress up. Factors that strained both my thin wardrobe and even thinner wallet. Somebody else is paying for it, dumb shit. Don't be difficult, it'll be my treat. You deserve some pampering after what you went through this morning, and the Royal is just the place to indulge yourself. I had my doubts, because I'm an asshole, but we agreed to meet at noon. I was looking forward to seeing her again. She lived nearby, but aside from a short visit when I was recuperating from my last dance with a Colt 45, it had been several months since we'd gotten together. I'm not going to talk about the other time somebody, pointed a gun at me. And I'm not going to explain to you why I'm referring to it as a dance when my life was on the line, but okay. Not since family Christmas gatherings had ended on a sour note when I stumped out, furious with our older sister, Donna, for meddling in my affairs. I'm not going to tell you what those affairs were, but I guess I was going out with a lot of guys at the same time, and she had a problem with that, being a sensible, kind person. Kate and I were only a year apart and often mistaken for twins as kids, but the close relationship we had involved much more than physical similarities. We were actually incestuous. For one thing, she never messed with my head like Donna always seemed to. All I have is your word to go on. I can't trust you. This is your biased point of view. The worst I could expect from Kate was a near-bending litany of woe about her love life. Oh, your life is so hard. She'd been married 3 times and had recently dumped the guy who was supposed to be husband number 4. I suspected that the real motive behind the invite was nothing more than the need for a sympathetic shoulder to cry on. You're an asshole. You're a fucking asshole. I hate you so much. I cannot express how much I despise the main character of these books. I just cannot. As it turned out, I was wrong. Dead wrong. Because you're clever, author. Chapter 2. I locked up the office at 11:30 because I decided to work today for some reason. Just, I guess, getting held up at gunpoint is a normal day on this job. Working at a marina. So that I could change my clothes before meeting Kate at the broiler. I've called Lestrad's Marina my home for the past... I've called Lestrad's Marina my home for the past 3.5 years, ever since I moved aboard Second Wind, a 40-foot sloop that moored at the end of K-Dock. Second Wind was the life ring I grabbed in the aftermath of my husband's death. Wendell's losing battle with a brain tumor at age 36 caused me to take a good hard look at how I wanted to live the rest of my life. Living aboard a ship, living aboard a boat, in a shitty marina where getting held up is just Wednesday, however long that might be. The upshot was that I wanted to be doing what I loved most, sailing. Within months of burying Wendell, I'd quit my job teaching high school science, sold my house, and cashed in all my savings to buy Second Wind. I couldn't have shocked my family more had I run off with the parish priest, because that's a thing you do. Holy Mother of God, you've done what? Pretty much sums up the general reaction. Of your family, of the priest you ran off with, of your boyfriend who's now your boat. What? Words such as irresponsible and selfish still ring in my ears, because somebody calling you selfish after your husband dies, that's what somebody says, and if they do say it, they deserve a punch in the face. I'm not really sure about the irresponsible, but this main character as well as the author are pretty both irresponsible, so I can accept that one. Still ring in my ears, but despite the family uproar, I know with every fiber of my being that buying Second Wind was the right decision. I masturbate to it nightly. It was the affirmation of all that my grandfather had ever taught me. Sailing is a vision, Kelly, darling. And your boat is the physical realization of that vision. Drunk in the moonlight. A spiritual blending of wind, tides, and salt air with self-reliance. Make sure you clean yourself daily. With mastery over yourself, with survival. Because sometimes the boat tries to get in places it really can't go. To me, Second Wind is more than just a sailboat. More than rigging in witches, cleats, and billowing sails. It is the ever-changing wind. It is the ebb and flood of the sea. It is silence and great peace at the bottom of my soul. It is who I am. One day I will also be a sailboat. I'm saving my pennies for the plastic surgery. Sailing represents life as my grandfather always said it should be, as it has to be. As it has to be. It is real, it is authentic. It is the life we all crave, the life that stirs within us and will not die unless we let ourselves succumb to the desperation born of life's I said minute, but I'm not sure that's how you actually say that. Minutae, whatever. Killing us every hour of every day, a little at a time, as surely as the insidious disease that killed my husband. Because it personally chose your husband to kill. It murdered him. Cancer murdered your husband. Get over yourself. You are no more important or precious than anybody else in existence. Like, at all. Also, stick your poetry up your ass. This is not the place for it. I get it, you like sailing, and you felt a great attachment to your grandfather who put that love of sailing into you. Stop it. So here I was, 3+ years into my authentic lifestyle. Because I wasn't living to begin with. So it was fake, rather than authentic. Hurrying down the dock toward my boat in a torrent downpour without an umbrella. Because you wouldn't be carrying one for some reason. Can't get much more real than that. You're full of shit. The marina was practically deserted. Normally at this time of year the place would be hopping with activity. But even for Seattleites, the incessant rain had been a bit much. The usually wet spring had dampened spirits as well as everything else. The smart folks had found a dry place and were staying put. The best I could do was pull my jacket collar up and cover my head with an old newspaper. Because you're going to melt in the rain. If it's raining that hard, it doesn't matter what you try to do. You're going to get wet. Soaking wet. Also, author, do you not know how to avoid cliches? Big deal. I was soaking wet by the time I got to K-Dock. So why try anyway? Hey, Montgomery, this your cat? Yelled Stubbs Dahlquist. He pointed with a metal boat hook at the scrawny gray cat sitting atop his sailboat's canvas-covered bottom. The cat, studiously ignoring Stubbs, was busy licking its paw. Not really, Stubbs wasn't convinced. Humph. Well, little shit came tearing out of your cockpit like a bat out of hell a half hour ago. It's been making itself comfortable up there ever since. Why is it a piece of shit? I fail to see what's wrong with a cat just hanging out, licking its paw in the rain. He took a swipe at the cat with the boat hook. As much as I don't like them, somebody call PETA to sick them on this guy and then actually call the animal rescue people to save the cat because PETA's crazy and I just want this guy to be smacked around. This guy should be arrested for animal abuse. 'Cause, yeah, just swipe a hook around the cat, trying to hit it. What a good person he is. She hissed and growled at him, but never budged an inch. Stubbs swore under his breath. Stupid fucker doesn't even know enough to get itself out in the rain. Uh-huh. Can we go save the cat? I bet the main character isn't going to go save the cat. It's bad to leave the cat with this guy if he's going to be an asshole. I assumed he meant the cat. He meant both you and the cat, my friend. Hopefully, he'll swing that boat hook at you and kill you. So I don't have to read this story anymore. Stubbs was a former used car salesman in his late 60s who'd hit the big time when he played his modest retirement money into a fortune. Parlayed his modest retirement money into a fortune. He invested in Microsoft some years back when the stock was under $30 a share and has been bragging about it ever since. But according to his ex-wife, it'd all been a mistake. His broker thought he'd said, "Buy Microsoft, you idiot," with 2 exclamation points for some reason, when he actually said, "Buy Microsoft, you idiot," with 2 exclamation points. Maybe I can help you, Stubbs. He chomped down on the unlit cigar stub at the corner of his mouth and shrugged. Because you would just have an unlit cigar stub in your mouth. Be my guest. I climbed aboard and waved off his attempt to hand me the boat hook. Why would you do that? Why? That is you being an asshole to an animal. I fucking hate this story even more. I knew the cat and figured I could handle her without resorting to force. She wasn't mine, but we had a history of sorts. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you're best friends with the cat. The first time I saw her, she was in the drink at the end of K-Dock, frantically struggling to keep her head above water, and losing. Because you're such a fucking savior. I'd pluck her out, dried her off, and tried to send her on her way, but she dug her tiny claws into my sweatshirt and wouldn't let go. She had been hanging out with me ever since, but so far neither of us had been ready to commit to a long-term relationship. I approached the boom and called her name softly. Pan-Pan. Who calls a cat Pan-Pan? Really, who calls a cat Pan-Pan? Pan-Pan, come on, Pan-Pan, it's time to go home. She studied me a moment, then pulled herself upright and leapt onto the deck next to my feet. I picked her up, and we exchanged a quick greeting. A couple of strokes on her neck from me, and a tongue licking on my cheek from her. Stubbs snorted. Not yours, huh? I took her back to Second Wind, where I found a couple of towels to dry us off. I've always had a pet of some sort around, but when I moved aboard my boat, I made a conscious decision to forego the responsibility that comes with pet ownership. I liked being able to set sail at a moment's notice without having some animal depending on me to feed it or change its litter box. Because, it's not like I could stop for a moment and go get it, food and crap, bring it aboard, and then we just go. I'm pretty, like, a fucking idiot. And a loser. It was a freedom I cherished. Basically being a bum and not wanting to take care of anything or anybody. But there was something about Pan-Pan's big green eyes that had gotten to me. Whenever I'd think about kicking her out. You're an asshole. You are a dick, ma'am. I'm not claiming her as my pet cat, even though she is my pet cat and clearly is my pet cat, but I'm gonna kick her out because I don't really want her. I don't want the responsibility of taking care of her because sailing! She'd give me one of her how could you stares and I was hooked. At first, I just called her Kitty, but that seemed too ordinary, so we settled on Pan-Pan for the picky way she had clung to me after her watery rescue. Because that makes perfect sense. Because that's a common phrase when somebody's clinging to you. You say Pan-Pan. That easily comes to mind for the name of a cat, right? I would have called her, I don't know, Aqua? I mean, if you really don't want to put that much thought into it. Or, is it Ame that means rain? You could have done that. That's a pretty name for a cat, Ame. I think that's rain. It's kind of been a while since I knew what the word for rain was. So I might have forgotten. I wouldn't be surprised. Also, I suppose, for the sobering moment bordering on panic when I realized that my youthful fears had finally come to pass. I was a 40-year-old, ancient by kid standards. Why did we need that there? Are you talking about a kid? Is a kid talking to you and worried about how old you are compared to them, that you won't understand their problems because you're so old? Living alone with nothing but a mangy cat to keep her company. For those of you at home who don't know, I am a 30-year-old woman. Sleeping, I don't know, a couple of feet from me is a black cat. I have no problem with the way I'm living my life. Fuck this book. Oh well, at least I still had all my own teeth. Fuck this book. Pan-Pan curled up on my bed and fell asleep while I rummaged around in the closet for something presentable to wear to lunch. Also, no, the cat wouldn't be asleep on the bed. The cat would be in the closet with you. It wasn't easy. Due to space restrictions aboard the sloop, I didn't own an extensive wardrobe. To be truthful, I've never owned an extensive wardrobe. Luckily, jeans and sweatshirts served me very well around the marina. In spite of the weather, I chose a silky Johnny West sundress with cap sleeves, something I'd been dying to wear ever since I'd bought it on sale at the Bon Marché. That was back when I thought summer was just around the corner. Ha! Buying a sundress in Seattle has the same effect on the weather as washing your car. I just slipped into my nylons when Pam Pam woke up from her nap. Refreshed and frisky, she had nudged my leg, but I swallowed her away. I don't have the time to play with you. I'm already late as it is, because that's how I act with a kitty cat. I grabbed a hairbrush and tried to do something with my hair. It's short, naturally curly, which means it takes care of itself most of the time, but the rain had done a number on it. Oh, big whoop-de-doo, it rained on it, and now it's sticking to my head, flat as can be, not like it's going to dry naturally or anything. My head looked like a frizzy red beach ball. You're soaking wet! You can't look frizzy soaking wet! Frizzy red beach ball with eyes. Also, we finally, out of these 3 books, I think this is finally our first description of what the main character looks like. Apparently, she has red hair. Meanwhile, Pam Pam had grown weary playing by herself, and shifted from frisky to attack mode, claws fully operational. She started with the nylons and quickly moved onto the dress. In a matter of seconds, I looked like I'd been run through with a paper shredder. Why did you allow the cat to get that close and do that? Why didn't you put her out of the bedroom and shut the door? Why didn't you leave the bedroom and shut the door, keeping her in there? You deserve this. For the horrible, terrible bee that you certainly are. Stubbs was right, I screamed. Because I would scream at the top of my lungs for the cat doing something that cats do. You are a little shit. And you're an asshole. I locked her in the forward cabin, grabbed an umbrella, and stomped off the boat. 'Cause I was 5, not bothering to change into something else. Which you shouldn't have changed into something else anyway, because you should have just went right over there. Who cares what you look like? A restaurant is a restaurant. Fuck them if they don't let you in, and then fuck your sister for suggesting a place that you don't really want to go to anyway. And if that was that much of a problem to you, you should have just been like, no, I don't want to go there. Can we please go somewhere else? Does Madam have a reservation? The Pacific... Why do I keep saying specific? The Pacific Boilers Mitre de... I don't know how to say that. Just like a random D with a apostrophe next to it. Like, how the crap do I read that? Had a phony French accent. How do you know it's phony? Is it really bad? Why wouldn't I hire somebody with a real French accent? Why do they even need somebody with a French accent? Why couldn't they just get a normal person to work there and be the host? And a nose about a mile high. He looked me over with his elbow cocked in a disapproving angle. Flip him off and go somewhere else to eat. No, but my sister probably does, I said, shaking the water from my umbrella. I'm meeting her here. He sighed heavily. What an asshole. So dreary dealing with the masses. And her name would be Rostier? Mary Kathleen Rostier. He made a big show out of consulting his appointment book slowly, running his finger down the page. Sorry, he managed a tight smile, and took in my hair and dress again. There doesn't seem to be a Rostier listed here. Are you sure you're not meeting her at the Topside? The Topside Bar and Grill was the marina's other restaurant. It'd been a warehouse at one time, and despite extensive renovations, still retained enough of its former roots to give it a casual working-class atmosphere. It was my favorite hangout because I'm better suited to it. Screw off. But I didn't much care for anyone assuming that's where I belonged. Why don't you take another look in your book? It's Rostier. R-O-S-S-I. I know how to spell it. Great, then you should be able to find it. Madam, that would be an impossibility. The name simply isn't in my book. Piss on it. It'd been a rough morning. Then why don't you tell him that? Tell you what, forget your book. I'll just take a gander at the dining room. He stepped forward as if to stop me, then thought better of it. Lordstad's Marina was one of Seattle's ritziest, with pricey mortgage rates and amenities like the Pacific Broiler to prove it. In keeping with the marina's upscale image, also, wouldn't, most of the employees there know you? Being an employee at the marina. So why is he being an asshole to you? The broiler's decor was fashionably elegant, which meant a lot of money had been thrown around for crystal chandeliers, oriental rugs, and mahogany and teak, whatever, everything. The overall effect was a staid and stodgy look that seemed rather fitting, given the rich cold duffers who usually hung out there. So I was more than a little surprised to see that the conservative dining room had gone ethnic. Brightly colored piñatas hung from the chandeliers, and several posters of bullfighters and Mexican street scenes dominated the walls. The motif looked about as Mexican as Taco Bell. I stopped one of the waiters who used to work at Topside. "What's going on here, Ralph?" He shrugged, obviously embarrassed. "We got a new manager. He's into the theme menus." He tugged at his sombrero. "You should have been here in March. He had us all wearing silly little green hats like we were leprechauns or something." He glanced over his shoulder before adding, "But I'm hitting the road if he ever does a Scottish theme. I draw the line at kilts." "Oh, because kilts are so not manly. Only girls wear kilts." What in the fuck is wrong with this person? I headed for the dining room smoking section. Kate's been a 2-pack a day smoker for years. That's rather unhealthy. But didn't find her amongst the puffing hordes. The non-smokers part of the room was even more crowded. But it wasn't hard to spot Kate. Even at 41, she was easily the prettiest woman in the place. Always the beauty of the family. The years had been kind to her, even if her love life hadn't. She was just 5'2", but she always seemed much taller. Trained as an actress, she carried herself like a runway model and dressed the part, meaning she was graceful and glamorous and everything I wasn't. But I wasn't jealous. Well, not much. How courteous of you. For today's lunch, she sported a casual look, an ivory silk blouse under a classic double-breasted red blazer, with peaked lapels and gold buttons. Wait, have you been reading my show? Have you been watching my show? Her auburn hair looked as if she just had it cut, a short new style that flattered her oval face. She sat at a window table with her shapely legs crossed, her gray garbandine skirt tastefully covering her knees. Okay, so I just want to say something about the guy who's hosting the joint. You're not going to call for the manager and complain about this guy being a dickbag and lying to you about your sister being there, and have his ass fired, if not heavily reprimanded, for being a dick and lying to you. In fact, insulting a customer. Seriously? You're just gonna... Okay. She sat at a window table with her shapely legs crossed, her gray garbandite skirt tastefully covering her knees. I hesitated a moment before approaching the table, painfully aware of how shabby I looked compared to Kate. "What happened to you?" she asked when I joined her. I fingered one of the snags in my dress. "Let's just say I'm giving serious thought to placing a found cat ad in the Seattle Times." As I sat down, I said, "It's lucky I found you. However you say that at the front, insisted that your name wasn't on the reservation list." Kate shrugged. "I told him I was Kate Lordstad." "Then your sister is an asshole. Thought a little name-dropping might get us a better table." Her ruse must have worked, for we had a terrific view of downtown Seattle and Mount Rainier. Also, you wouldn't have bothered to call your sister to let her know that she went under the name Lordstad. Your sister's to blame for the fuck-up. But we might as well have been in a closet. The only thing Kate seemed to notice was the margarita in front of her. She drained the last of it as soon as I sat down, and then signaled a waiter for another. Kate wasn't much of a drinker. In fact, she hardly drank at all. She was allergic to wine, hated beer. How are you allergic to wine? Well, I guess maybe grapes or something in grapes. Hated beer and considered herself overdoing it if she took a brandy after dinner. Geez, Kate, what's up with the booze? She ran a finger over the sunken rim of her empty glass, but said nothing. A waiter in a purple sombrero 2 sizes too big arrived with her drink order. She licked the salt from her finger and gulped the margarita as if it were water. The waiter turned to me. "And what can I get for you?" I ordered some iced tea and pursued one of the menus he left for us. Kate suddenly set her glass down. "Oh, my God, I can't believe he's here." I looked up from the menu. "Who?" She motioned to a corner booth several tables away, where a middle-aged man sat by himself, reading the same menu I had in front of me. I was surprised that Kate recognized him. Dennis Lancaster was the owner of Maritime Enviro Services and the moving force behind an effort to oust live-aboards like me from the marina. Why? Oust live-aboards like me from the marina. Why? I'd managed to steer clear of the guy, but several of the other live-aboards had. I think you could work a little better with what you have, my friend. Plenty of run-ins with him. "Oh, yeah," I said, "Dennis Lancaster. He has a yacht moored here. Thinks live-aboards are trailer trash or some such nonsense. If he gets his way, I could be looking for new living quarters soon." Kate didn't seem to hear me. "Why is he following me?" "Following you?" She took another drink. "Listen, Callie, I don't trust the guy." "Well, you're not alone, but I wasn't aware that you even knew him. The jerk lives in my building." That explained it. Dennis Lancaster fancied himself something of a ladies' man, and since Kate attracts men like cat hair to a tight sweater, he'd probably hit on her at their condo. He was good looking in that he was taller than the average Joe, with all the requisite manly features. Strong, square-jawed face, tanned and well-built body, neatly trimmed hair and beard, with just a hint of gray, and deep-set dark eyes. But there was something else about him, a dangerous and unpredictable look that belied his flirty smile and teasing banter. The waiter returned with a bowl of chips and some salsa, then asked if we were ready to order lunch. Kate opted for a small taco salad, while I went for the works. A combo plate with taco, burrito, chimichanga, rice, and beans. How is this an upscale restaurant? Why not just have this take place in a Mexican restaurant? Oh, wait, then we wouldn't have the main character being talked down to. We have to show that, people are assholes to her for no good reason, because how dare she be poor? I was suddenly ravenous and dug into the chips and salsa. However tacky the broiler's new decor, the salsa was great. It had just the right amount of cilantro, lime, and serrano chile to keep me eating right up until our lunch arrived. Whatever Kate's problem with Lancaster was, she didn't elaborate further. Our conversation was mostly confined to the ordinary intermixed with a little family gossip, the usurping scoop being that our sister Donna was going in for another round of liposuction. Okay, whatever. We were midway through our meal when I saw Lancaster stand up. He'd been joined by none other than the Weasel. And the young newspaper reporter. My, that's interesting, I said. "What?" asked Kate. "Lancaster is on the selection committee for the Marina's general manager position. Looks like Todd Wilmington is doing some hustling for his vote." Kate looked over at the trio and frowned. "The Weasel is an idiot in search of a village. How does he possibly think he'll get selected?" I laughed. Who knows? Though I've always said he should go far, and the sooner the better. That drew a smile from Kate, the first since we begun lunch. Just be glad you're not on the selection committee, she said. He'd be trying to suck up to you as well. I nodded, but not for the reason she thought. Besides Wilmington, Rose Randall, the marina's accountant, and Bert Foster, the harbor master, were also vying for the same job. Rose was my best friend, but Bert was the main reason I was able to live at a marina like Lordstad's. He was Donna's ex-husband, and the only one who'd supported my decision to buy Second Wind. He'd gotten me a mooring slip at Lordstad's at a drastically reduced rate, and even arranged for me to teach at the sailing school. I owed him big time, but I was also very fond of Rose, who was extremely qualified to be general manager. I was glad I wouldn't have to put my loyalties to the test. How about some dessert? I asked Kate. She immediately summoned our waiter, but instead of ordering dessert, she asked for another drink. I don't get it, Kate, I said. Why are you drinking your lunch? She smiled sheepishly and pushed up her sleeve to expose a small tan patch on her arm. Can you believe it? I'm finally doing something about kicking the habit. Congratulations, I said, sincerely pleased, because I'm going to give up smoking for becoming an alcoholic. Immensely proud of your decision. Good job. But I still don't get it. Are you saying that you've switched your drug of choice from nicotine to alcohol? Hardly. Then why all the booze? Well, I guess you could say the moment of truth finally arrived. Before she could explain further, our waiter brought my dessert, a scrumptious flan, and Kate changed the subject. Enough about me, she said. I want to talk about Pearl. What's she up to now? Climbing in the Himalayas? Pearl Danielson was a former sailing student of mine and Kate's next-door neighbor, a feisty, fiercely independent 75-year-old woman who took up sailing at age 70 because she was bored with fly fishing. She's missing. What do you mean missing? As in, poof, she's gone, disappeared, vanished, without a trace. Duh. I rolled my eyes. Great, get real, Kate. With Pearl, anything's possible. What makes you think she's not off on one of her little adventures? Remember the time she signed up for a cruise and we thought she was going on a luxury liner to some place like the Caribbean? It wasn't until she got back that we learned her so-called cruise had been a canoe trip down the Amazon. Yeah, I remember. It took us all by surprise. Well, there you go. No, Kelly. This is different. She isn't off on some exotic trip unless you consider Salem, Oregon, exotic. Isn't that where her daughter lives? Right, Kate nodded. Little Adrienne, the tight-ass Republican. So now we're gonna diss Republicans? The thing is, she's never gotten along with Pearl, or her liberal-leaning politics. But according to Pearl, Adrienne's been after her to move to Salem, ostensibly to be closer to the family. What'd Pearl think of the idea? Not much. She was just going to Salem for a visit, wasn't supposed to be gone more than a couple of days, but it's been over 2 weeks now and she's not back yet, so maybe she just decided to extend her visit, spend a little more time with Adrienne and her family. That's what I thought at first, but then the police showed up, asking all kinds of questions about her. Apparently she never made it to Salem, and Adriana filed a missing persons report. So what do you think? Well, she told you what she thought. That's what she thought. That's as far as her mind was willing to go. About what? Apparently that was as far as her mind was willing to go. Slow? About finding Pearl. I'm sure she'll turn up eventually, especially if the police are involved. I could give a shit less about somebody who became my friend. Kate sighed and looked down at the table. I was afraid you'd say that. I had to laugh. You sound as if you don't want her found. Maybe you're slow, but I'm pretty sure she meant that she wants you to get off your lazy ass and help find her. I had to laugh. You sound as if you don't want her found. Of course I do. It's just that I thought you might want to help find her. Me? Why would you think that? I'm only a lazy slob who cares about myself and sightseeing people's dead bodies. She shot me an exasperated look. I swear to God, Kelly, I can't believe you sometimes. This is Pearl Danielson we're talking about. The woman is like a mother to us. Didn't you jump at the chance to solve the Moyer murders a few months back? You hardly ever knew them, but you sure got yourself involved in investigation. I rubbed my shoulder. Yeah, and what did my little investigation get me? A stay in the hospital and a bum shoulder that still hurts like crazy whenever it rains. Funny, it's been raining the entire time and you haven't said anything about it now. Fuck you! Fuck the fuck out of you! With a rusty shovel stuck up your ass sideways. I looked out the window at the dark clouds hovering over the city like a giant black umbrella, which is just about constantly these days. All I know is that you're good at figuring things out. Apparently not. She didn't figure out why you was asking for her help. You had to spell it out to her. And this isn't a murder case. It can't possibly be all that dangerous. Besides, you're Pearl's only hope. Maybe, maybe not. Adrienne and her family don't want her found. How do you know this? Why do you say that? They contacted the police, filed a missing persons report. What more do you want them to do? Oh, I don't know, something besides sit around on their butts waiting for the police to do all the work? That's what the police get paid for. If it's just money you're concerned about, I'll be more than willing to pay you for your efforts. Where did she ever say she was worried about money? Her offer annoyed me. Kate was comfortably well off, each of her 3 divorces having left her with substantial settlements, and, although I hated to admit it, my sister was no different from many of the rich people I'd met at the marina. She truly believed that money could solve any problem. Well, even people who aren't rich believe that. So shut up. Trying to keep the irritation out of my voice, I said, It's not the money, Kate. I have a job here. Tracking down Pearl, as much as I love her, would take time. Also interfere with your marina job. But you also didn't seem to care about that when you've done all this other crap. I thought you said things were a little slow right now, she said, pouting. That's true, but this weather can't last forever. Nothing's happening today, is it? Well, considering I just got held up by a crazy gun-toting lunatic? No, but then come back to Palisades with me now, she pleaded. Take a look at Pearl's condo, see if there's anything there that the police may have overlooked. That's all I'm saying. Just a quick look. What can it hurt? And just how do you propose that we get into her condo? I'm not about to get arrested for breaking and entering, even if you can afford the bail. She ignored the dig and said, I have access to a key. I considered Kate's request. Maybe her concerns were valid. She was certainly upset. She was certainly upset about Pearl, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something else troubling her as well, and I'm not going to bother asking her about it. Okay, I said finally, because I'm just going to give in to this crap. Just a quick look. Nothing more. Chapter 3. As I expected, Kate started feeling the effects of her 3-margarita lunch as soon as we left the broiler. Before I could suggest it, she threw me the keys to her car and ordered me to drive. Her car was a brand-new Mercedes S500, which, given our destination, seemed only slightly less fitting than a limo. My sister and Pearl Danielson lived in Palisades West, a hoity-toity condominium located near the newly constructed Bell Street Pier and within walking distance of the Pike Place Market. Recipient of countless architectural awards, the Palisades had one of the most sweeping views of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains that the city had to offer. Because of the choice views from virtually every unit and the exclusive appointments, the Palisades was home to some of Seattle's wealthiest citizens. Kate lived here by virtue of her marriage to husband number 2, a Texas oilman who could have bought the entire building and never left a dent in his portfolio. He and Kate had lived in the 5,000 square foot penthouse suite during their brief marriage, and after the divorce, Kate wound up with the whole shebang. She opted to sell the penthouse at a substantial profit and bought a smaller unit, a mere 3,000 square feet, right next door to Pearl Danielson. Pearl had lived in the building since it opened. Unlike me, she was a widow with money, and unlike Kate, she'd earned most of it herself. She was notoriously tight-lipped about her personal life, but it was no secret that Pearl Danielson was a self-made millionaire. Her success story began in 1945 when she turned a long-time hobby, portrait photography, into one of Seattle's most successful entrepreneurial efforts. Before hanging up her camera case a few years back, she'd taken photos by Pearl Public and authorized the development of a string of studio franchises across the U.S. and Canada. Palisades West wasn't far from the marina, but it took us quite a while to get there. Every 2 blocks or so, I had to pull over to the curb so Kate could upchuck her lunch. A very light drinker, I see. By the time we finally arrived, she looked miserable and smelled even worse. So she threw up on herself? Yeah, that's what rolling down the window and vomiting out the window is supposed to be for. Tony Shermaine, the building superintendent, met us at the lobby entrance. An ex-Marine, Tony was 45, short, and as stocky as a bulldog. He had a little round face with little round eyes that were always on you, sort of like in those trick paintings, the ones where you swear the eyes follow your every move, or you're just paranoid. Kate thought he was the greatest, but I couldn't get past those eyes, or the 50 pounds of brow cream he favored. Despite a no-nonsense crew cut, he smeared enough grease on his thick black hair to fry up a dozen eggs. Dressed in white overalls and carrying a bucket of paint in each hand, he was giving orders to a couple of similarly attired teenagers when we came in. As soon as he saw Kate, though, he thrust the buckets at one of the kids and sprinted across the lobby like Michael Johnson going for the gold. "Hey, what's the matter with my girl?" He asked. His concerned expression confirmed my long-held belief about the man. Dennis Lancaster might have the hots for Kate, but Tony Carmaine was absolutely in love with her. He'd served in Vietnam with one of Kate's husbands and had barely made it out alive, with nothing but a couple of medals. How old are you? You guys are supposed to be 40 and 41? Look, you're as old as my brother, guys. I don't think, unless your husbands are 10 to 30 years older than y'all, I don't think so. She would have had to marry somebody as old as my father, who was in Vietnam, and he's in his 60s. He's passed away, but he's in his 60s. So you'd basically have to date somebody and marry someone that's 20 years older than you. Which is fine if you really are in love and care that much for each other, but yeah. Unless we're saying this story takes place in like the 80s or something. With nothing but a couple of medals to show for his troubles, he'd wrapped himself around a whiskey bottle and never let go, flitting from one low-paying job to another for years. Until he met Kate. She got him into AA and convinced the management at Palisades to give him a chance. He'd been hovering around her like a love-struck teenager ever since. Nothing that a little bed rest won't cure, I said, steering Kate toward the elevator. Getting my sister moving in the right direction, though, was akin to propelling a boat across Elliott Bay without a rudder. To keep her upright, I grabbed a hold of one arm while Tony grabbed the other. Kate clung to us as though we'd offered her a life ring. When she reached the elevator, Tony punched the button for the 9th floor. You want I should get you something? He asked Kate as we waited. Why is he talking like this? What kind of accent is he supposed to have? She groaned a little, which Tony took as a yes. He asked Kate as we waited. She groaned a little, which Tony took as a yes. What you want, sweetheart? Aspirin, Alka-Seltzer? Why is there a trademark there? Why is the R in a circle there? You don't need that. You don't need that. And if you think you're going to get in trouble with them for using Alka-Seltzer in here, make up something. Make up something that kind of sounds like Alka-Seltzer. Like, just switch it around, like seltzer Alka, fizzy water. No, I'm serious. It says Alka-Seltzer, and then they got the little circle with the R in it. I'm dead serious. You name it, you got it. Keys, she sputtered. Tony's dark eyes registered momentary confusion. Oh, I get it, he said, snapping his fingers. You forgot your house key again, is that it? The elevator doors slid open as Kate shook her head. Pearls. So that's what she meant by having access. I thought Pearl had given her a key so that she could water the plants or something. Instead, she counted on Tony to get us into the condo. Kate, I said, I don't think this is such a good idea. But Tony had already pulled a large metal ring crammed with keys out of his pocket. He quickly pried open the ring and handed one of the keys to Kate. Here you go, Pearl Danielson, number 925. Oh, God, moaned Kate. What I really need is a cigarette. I fully expected him to produce one of those as well. Instead, he looked down at the elevator floor, suddenly interested in a small rip in the carpet. Aw, Kate, he said, poking at the frayed fabric with his shoe. You know what the doctor told you. What doctor? I asked. Tony and Kate exchanged glances. She doesn't know, does she? He said. When Kate failed to respond, I said, You're talking about the patch, right? If my sister had been nauseous in the Mercedes, her condition became even more acute following the elevator ride. Tony and I managed to get her into her condo just before she delivered up the rest of her lunch. I was beginning to feel a little queasy myself, and after cleaning up the mess in the entry floor, went into the kitchen for a drink of water. Meanwhile, Tony had eased Kate onto the living room couch, where, when I returned, he was wiping her forehead with a handkerchief. How's she doing? I asked. Not so good. He picked up a prescription bottle from the coffee table and shook out 2 pills. Need some water, he said, hurrying out of the kitchen. I sat down next to Kate and examined the prescription label. I didn't recognize the medication. Kate, what's going on? She pressed Pearl's key into my hand. You'll have to go by yourself. I can't make it. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's the matter with you. Too much to drink. I fingered the prescription bottle. Yeah, right. Tony hustled into the room with a glass of water. Here you go, sweetheart, he said, handing her the glass and pills. See if you can get these down. I held her head while she sipped the water and swallowed both pills. What's the prescription for, Kate? I asked. I can't talk about it right now, she said, closing her eyes. Go take a look at Pearl's condo. We'll talk when you get back, but it's all right, Tony said. I'll stay here with her. Yeah, echoed Kate, pushing me away. Tony knows what to do, so go on, get yourself out of here. Because, a woman who maybe is missing, who might be in trouble, is more important than the fact that I'm hanging out with my getting sick everywhere sister who's taking mysterious medication and isn't telling me something that I need to know, clearly. But of course, she's going to leave. I started to argue, but it was apparent from the set of her jaw that it would be pointless to exercise. Or you could just tell her, well, if you're not going to tell me, fuck Pearl, whoever the fuck she is next door, and I'm just going to go home. Screw you. Her determined look told me that nothing had changed since we were kids. I could badger my sister all day long, but if I didn't do what she wanted, she'd never tell me anything. Then fuck her and leave. She's being a dick. Okay, I said. Then, unable to suppress the teacher in me, I added, but when I return, I want an explanation. Since Kate had closed her eyes again, I wagged a finger at Tony. A full explanation. I was almost out the door when he said, there is one little thing. What's that? 4547. Say that again. The security code. You'll need it once you're inside Miss Danielson's. One little thing, indeed. I wondered how he knew her code. Her code? Her code. But didn't press the issue. Thanks for sharing. 4547, he repeated. Don't forget, or there'll be hell to pay if that alarm goes off. Hell I could handle. Police were another matter. I couldn't have felt more guilty about letting myself into Pearl's condo than if I had jimmied the lock. Didn't feel bad when you went aboard those people's boats and looked at their dead bodies. In fact, you wanted to sightsee that. Despite the difference in our ages and our markedly desperate economic circumstances? What's desperate about her circumstances? I don't get it. That doesn't make sense. Pearl and I had become good friends, on and off the water, but in all the time that I'd known her, she never invited me to her home. And now here I was, inviting myself in like a common thief. You had the key. What's-his-face gave it to you. Never mind that. Why is never mind 2 words here? I'm not sure if there's a rule for that. I don't know if that's acceptable or not, so I'm not going to nitpick about it, other than to say it's a little weird for me to see never mind as 2 separate words. Never mind that I had a key, I was nothing more than a trespasser. Yeah, that would be more accurate. An interloper. Now you're going a bit overboard. A snoop. We get it. You don't need to show us you have a thesaurus. The fact that she was supposedly missing did nothing to quell my uneasiness over being in her home without permission. I figured I'd take a quick peek around and get out as fast as I could. After I opened the front door and slipped inside, I located the security keypad and quickly entered the numerical code Tony had given me. With the alarm safely dismantled, I stood in the marbled entry a few moments to get my bearings. The air was stale, as dry and lifeless as the roses that adorned a nearby table. The room's musty odor was not surprising, considering that the place had been closed up for over 2 weeks. But there was something else that hit me as soon as I walked in, a suffocating tightness in my chest that left me gasping for breath. It was eerie, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room during Pearl's absence. Still feeling like an intruder, I was reluctant to touch anything, including the light switch, a reluctance that was a little silly since I could hardly see a thing. But after a moment or two, my eyes adjusted to the low light spilling out from the edges of the heavily draped windows, and I was able to see well enough for my purposes. Because I'm too much of a dumbass to turn the damn light on. Which, my guilty feeling notwithstanding, included a certain curiosity about how the rich folk lived. Because I couldn't have just looked around my sister's room and figured that out for myself. What a disappointment. For someone with Pearl's net worth, her furnishings didn't seem all that opulent. Oh, she had fine taste, evidenced by the exquisite plush carpeting, oil paintings, and antiques. But they were hardly examples of conspicuous consumption. So either we're implying that she's a lady who likes comforts and isn't about to go out and buy the latest new thingamajigger, or we're implying that she's actually living outside of her means. Gotcha. I'd seen more elaborate furnishings in some of the yachts moored at Larstad's. The more I thought about it, though the more the simple decor made sense. Her home was just like Pearl herself, warm, comfortable, and easy to like. Since Kate and Pearl were next-door neighbors, I'd expected the units to have similar floor plans. At first glance, the layout was indeed the same: formal dining room to my right, office den to my left, and immediately ahead an expansive great room with adjoining gourmet kitchen. Beyond the great room on the left was a hallway that led to a small guest bathroom. Further on, 3 bedrooms. Just your basic little condo. I don't know why it needs 3 bedrooms if only one person's living there. Maybe she has a lot of guests over, I don't know. Pearl's unit was even larger than Kate's 3,000 square foot nest. A white spiral staircase to the right of the great room led to a second floor. Since my initial look-see downstairs hadn't turned up anything remotely helpful, I decided to check out what lay above. At the top of the stairs, I found myself in a huge loft overlooking the great room. Grampy always said that the heart of home was the kitchen, but if he'd been with me this day, he'd have said we were looking into Pearl's soul. 2 of the 3 walls were occupied by floor-to-ceiling bookcases, crammed with hundreds of books. I already liked this lady more than the main character. National Geographic, several vintage cameras, and a hodgepodge of souvenirs from Pearl's travels around the world, including a model of Sunrunner, the ketch Pearl had sailed single-handedly from Seattle to Hawaii 3 years before. The third wall was covered with black and white portraits, some framed and tiled, but most not. The subjects were varied and offered a striking retrospective of Pearl's artistry through the decades. A young bride waiting in front of a church, an old man towing a fishing pole, a schoolgirl playing hopscotch, a couple of street people sharing the smoke. As I studied the portraits, it suddenly occurred to me why Pearl had enjoyed such financial success. Through the simple click of a shutter, she had created a lasting link between the thin thread of memory and a fleeting moment in time. The only furniture in the loft consisted of a cream-colored leather recliner, a square-end table, and a floor lamp grouped alongside the railing. A variety of magazines and books, mostly travel and sailing related, were piled atop the table. One of the books, The Sparrow by Mary Dora Russell, which could be a real book, could not be, was open, its pages secured with a pair of reading glasses. I could picture Pearl sitting in the chair, a cup of tea on the table, the book in her hands, reading glasses perched halfway down her nose, a concentrated smile on her face. What I couldn't picture was anything amiss, except for a little dust. The loft, like the rest of the condo, was immaculate. If there were any clues to Pearl Danielson's disappearance here, they sure weren't popping out at me. As I debated whether or not to check out the rest of the upstairs or simply bag the whole thing, I heard a noise at the front door. I held my breath and hoped it was just someone passing by in the hall outside. No such luck. Male voices, were in the entryway now, and I was knee-deep in guano. I'm sure you were, considering, you had a key to the place, and were given a key to the place, and were asked by your sister to come investigate. Oh, wait, I guess you're not actually a private detective. You just work at the marina. Idiot. With absolutely no desire to make my presence known, I immediately hit the deck, quietly of course, and laid stomach side down facing the railing. 2 men entered the great room, and although I couldn't see their faces without exposing myself, I had no trouble hearing them. Their voices were loud and rough, and, in case of one of them, surprisingly familiar. How many times I gotta tell you, shitbrain? Always lock the door. Fuck you, I locked it. Yeah, right, and I suppose you reset the alarm too, right? You hear my little beep-beep sound going off? You hear any little beep-beep sound going off? A pause. Must be something wrong with the system. With your system, you mean. Fuck you. Let's get this over with. Where'd you say you saw it? The den. They backtracked to the entryway, presumably the den. I could have stayed put, probably should have stayed put, but these guys were obviously after something, and I damn well wasn't going to cower in a corner until they found it, or me. I crept down the staircase and inched my way across the great room. I was within spitting distance of the front door and a clean getaway when all the lights went on in the den. Scantically? I guess it's scarcely. Scantly breathing. Scarcely breathing. I flattened myself against the nearest wall. I thought I'd recognized Dennis Lancaster's voice earlier. Now I was positive. I poked my head around the corner and saw him standing at Pearl's roll-top desk, pulling out one drawer after another. I didn't know the guy with him, but he was giving a small oak cabinet the same treatment. I figured I had two choices in the situation: get the hell out while I still could, or stick around and see what Lancaster and his pal were up to. I chose door number 2. The entryway table didn't make for an ideal hiding spot, but I decided to chance it. Crouching low, I watched nervously as the two men ransacked Pearl's den. Their search was a hurried and haphazard rifling that culminated in a furious dumping of papers onto the floor. "It's not here," said Lancaster's buddy disgustedly. "Are you sure you even saw it?" "I said I did, didn't I?" "Yeah, but what you say and what you do are two different—" "Shit," said Lancaster, tugging on his beard. "What?" "Maybe she took it with her." "Why would she do that?" "Who knows? I tell you, man, she's getting loonier and loonier every day. Get this. One day I'm over here, can't remember why, but the point is she offers me some tea. Last thing I want is to have tea with the old biddy. But I figure, what the hell? Won't hurt me to humor her a bit. You know, maybe get on her good side for a change. Are you going somewhere with this story?" Lancaster made like a traffic cop and held both hands in the air. "Just hold on," he said. "The old gal serves up the tea all nice and proper like. I mean, we're talking fancy here. Silver tray, cream and sugar, and linen napkins, the works. But then she goes and pulls a weirdo on me." "What the hell are you talking about?" "The sugar bowl," said Lancaster. "She dips into the goddamn bowl and spoons out her house keys." "Damn, if she's really getting that bad, then it could be anywhere. We're going to have to tear this place apart." I took that as my cue to leave, but when I stood, I bumped into the table. It was just a slight tap, but it was enough. The vase of roses teetered, then crashed to the floor. And hopefully they killed her, but considering there's more to this shitty book, they didn't. I hate this series. I'm not going to read any more of this series, unless another book comes out, which she's supposed to be writing it, so I'll probably pick that up. Bypass the sins of selling books. They are shit, and everyone should burn them. I'm not going to stop you from picking it up. I'm not going to stop the lady from writing her books. I'm not going to stop people who actually enjoy her books for some reason from enjoying her books. But I am not one of them. I will be trading them. I'll be selling them. I don't really give a shit at this point what I do with them, but I'm getting them out of my house. And then I'm picking up books I'm more interested in reading. I'm Caleb, and this has been Read Not. Thank you for listening. Bye!